and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am. So hello there, beloved Ascension pioneers, and welcome to this special nature video edition with me. Remember back when I used to do a lot of running videos here? This is a throwback to all those times when I went for a run. Then I had my little portable camera with me, which I no longer had. I mean, it's no longer working. So today I had my phone, and as I've promised, I would do random topics about our self-mastery in this last month of the 9-culminating cycle, 9-year cycle that we're all moving through, those of you who are really stepping up in your mastery. So the point being here is that today's topic is very much related to the art of choice again, because I see still a lot of almost like, it's not even a confusion, it's just that breaking point within people who are, in a way, they feel they're ready to choose the path of mastery, and at the other hand, they still feel they're responsible for other things that, they're no longer a part of that path, but not in a way that you separate yourself from it, but that you simply overcompass it with a greater truth. And with that, that becomes just a bigger part of that integrated whole you're stepping into. So a lot of times I see people, or they're asking me what to do in regards to others, and there's still a lot of speaking about others and how they come to them and what experiences they're having with others. When you choose your sovereign mastery path, the talk about them and what you seem to be perceiving about the outside world will have to be reflected back to you. There is no other way, and I've talked about this before. It doesn't mean you negate others. You simply embrace them within the greater truth through which you experience as your internal integral self. What that means is that you will have to step away from that which you perceive, sometimes even what's happening in the new age, or all those things, and you're witnessing others, and a lot of times people tell me things like, oh, this is happening in the world, and we kind of observe it, but we're still attached to it. Like, we think we have something to do with it, when in fact, when you look at the nature of soul evolution, and that every single one of us here has their own experience on the planet. Every single soul came to have its own experience on the planet, and you can't be responsible for the patternings or the choices of other people, because the moment you perceive yourself to be, you become hooked onto that, and you can't assist from a greater level of awareness and mastery and encompassing the truth, your internal compass, your internal knowing. So it's almost like a lot of people are still in that between zone, and this is probably why Spirit is nudging me to do one of those topics, which is almost like a gathering of what I've been talking about through the years, and especially this last culminating year, which, as if you've been following, everything has been about stepping up in our mastery, cultivating our life force, and it's been a lot about that embodiment of the soul, which I talk about so much. And sometimes people would say, well, how do you embody the soul, or how do you cultivate the life force? Polona, you didn't give us a proper example. And the thing is, I can't, because how I'm shown to cultivate my life force from within is a knowledge for me that is intuitive. It's so integrated, it comes through my source, and it's something that every master soul can help you through their own achieved example of their own sovereignty, to give you an example of how it can be done. But on a certain pathway, you come through this threshold when even that which draws you further on, whether it's someone you perceive as your teacher, guide, guru, whatever, and when you step into your own mastery, you will take the torchlight, and from there on, you're going to have to start illuminating your own path. So there is no other way, and I've talked about this before, and I've given you my own example, how at a certain point I no longer felt guided. It was like every single part of the external world stepped aside, and it was just me, myself, and I. It felt rather lonely, but it wasn't, because it was just an experience my soul had to go through, and it was ready for, because this was the mission that I embraced in this lifetime. and to live as a mystic, I had to step through that threshold. And even every experience I've had and through every relationship, it simply showed me how to turn that energy back to myself. And I've seen that some people are still stubborn to do so, and in a way they feel called to choose a path of their sovereign mastery, and at the other hand they feel pulled by other responsibilities and what they believe is happening in the outside world and how they're still responsible for it. Even if you've perceived at a certain point a part of yourself, you felt a part of you is invested in the new age, or you want to help with what's happening, and people sometimes are waking up to to the things that aren't really, you know, the main truth. There's a lot of illusion there as well, and you felt somehow responsible. And even though at a certain point in your life you felt that was it and that was your calling, you have the right to change your mind. That's what I'm saying, because you're evolving. So the path of that truth will be shifting in every moment, and you will have to realign in each given time. And there is no one to give you a reference point as to how and when and you're ready, but it has to come through you. So just today I've been doing my usual daily, I do daily tarot, just to see the energy, and then I see how I go about it through my day. It's just that plugging into my divine feminine intuitive source. So I got this Osho's card again, and I love Osho's transformational tarot. It's amazing because the stories written in there are just so gorgeous. They're so beautiful. A lot of them are about these figures and their own examples, like Buddha and certain other folks I don't know their names of because I'm not of that religious upbringing, but they're really beautiful stories and examples. And today I read this story about, you know, it was a master at the edge of the cliff. I mean, a master apprentice. It felt like someone who's just about to embrace their master, and he was standing on the edge of the cliff and he was dropping all the books and all the resources, and it was the throwing away of the knowledge was the message. And I talked about this throughout my messages, and it's just been going deeper and deeper. And so there was this picture, and the message was that there was this student who has been studying the word and the messages and all these books, and then he fell asleep one night and he had this vision of an ugly woman, and he was so appalled by her, he didn't know what to do. And then the woman pierced him through his being with her eyes, and she asked him, do you know the word, or do you also know the sense of it? And something like that. He was like, oh, he didn't know what to say, so he chose to say okay, because he felt her so piercing through, he had to be truthful. And he said, well, I only know the word. And she started laughing and dancing, and she shifted and she became beautiful and elevated. Then he said, well, if that made her so happy, I'm gonna also go and try the other thing. And he said, well, I also know the sense of it. And she turned again into this crass woman in her eye and crying and miserable. And he said, well, what is this? You know, before it made you so happy. And she said, yeah, because this master apprentice, you were actually you weren't lying, and for you to be able to do so, that's how I feel. And then he realized, and then he woke up and he realized she just represented that aspect of him. So he immediately threw away the books and all the knowledge, and he became his own religious person, his own divine self, and his own discovery. So the meaning and the fact being, there was this writing in the front of the oracle, and the message was that no one can give you the truth, even if someone came to realization of the truth, and when they offer you that, even for you it might be a lie, because it came from the outside. And I always tell you that it won't be a permanent self-realization. It won't be a permanent, might be a stepping stone, it might be a road to mastery, it might even be a recognition of how far along you've already been, and you've always had the answers, but sometimes you need a bit of the falsehood to show you, you know, darn it. I needed that experience just to prove myself wrong at that moment. Not wrong, but that there is a greater undertaking that I'm here for, and that I know it, and that I've always had it within me. Because what is even denser than this, you being passed on a certain, and I always tell you, someone will give information, and people do that, and all these readings and psychics, and it's okay if they show you an upliftment and they give you greater encouragement and to guide you towards your mastery. That's a different thing. But to give you a bunch of information that's supposed to be your truth, and it confuses you, and you get this inception. And this is the basis of my teaching always, because it's always been in my path as well, and I can pass that torch forward because I've been through those experiences. And each time someone has tried to do that to me, I said simply, thank you, but no. You know, I get the message, but I'm not taking it as the truth. You know, take the message, because the message might be something that you will get your own insight of. It might not be the whole thing, but don't take it as the ultimate truth. Because the truth is not, even when masters talk about truth, they don't mean it in the sense of your personal truth in that moment, because that's shifting, that's evolving as you are. But that truth, which is that ultimate, which is that illuminated truth, and I've talked about this so many times, and that's what they mean, and it's found in the most profound and actually simplistic ways when you're not even trying. So this obsession with seeking the truth, again, is a whole other thing. And I really like what's been writing there. That can be poisonous, even if it's truth. When it comes through someone else and it comes at you and it's presented to you, it's still not truth. So that's why in my videos I always encourage you, and I show you the steps, and I show you some of the things we need to walk through to wake up to the real self-realization of our mastery, rather than just partial bits and pieces and that information that's always just partial. And see, left eye. Something fell in my eye. It's like this little bug. So it's okay. We need to see, right? We need to see what's a distortion. That's what is the message here, for us to move forward. And every single time we get something, we question it through our inner feeling. And there will be this void created, and people fear the void, but it's actually in this void that you will become self-realized, and it's very beautiful. So for example, I had to take so many leaps into greater unfoldings of my consciousness, and I had to be so firm, and I had others trying to push my buttons, and there's a lot of young ones, and I don't mean by age, I mean sometimes by soul, and how they act, and they're always trying to push you. They're always trying to push your buttons, whatever you say. I'm talking about the kind of people that always turn around the sentences. They say something, you give them a wise response, they turn it around because they always want to appear the smartest. They're playing smarty pants game with you, and in a way it's funny because they're just doing this with themselves, and it's almost like they're being disrespectful towards someone who's wisely being there as a master being, and showing them that turning back to the self, that reflection, and they don't want to see it. So when you approach someone with wisdom, and you're not actually tossing the ball, you're not doing that turnaround, but you're simply illuminating with your presence. And a lot of times people who are like this, they won't like the answers because they don't want to see that self reflected. They don't want to see the opinions they made out of false judgments. Just yesterday, someone commented something, and I said how much we are alive, and they said something, there was a comment, and it was something like, oh, so if I'm on this planet, I'm already half dead anyway. I'm like, what? Where's this come from? It's just, look what you meant through it. And it's like, oh, I'm just kidding. I was like, okay. And it was a lot of that wordplay, when we're insecure by what we mean, because we're just actually putting words out. We're not even conscious in what we're doing. We do a lot of that mental babbling and putting the energy away. But if we realize how much that lessens our energy levels, because it truly does, then we become much more responsible with it. If we were instantly psychic to the degree that we saw, wow, how much that depletes us, we'd stop doing it immediately. But because people are not aware and they don't see, and their levels are clogged up, they still do it. They still pursue in that, and they still kind of like, when you say someone has a big tongue or a big mouth, there's a lot of big mouthing happening when we're in denial, and we don't want to reflect everything what we're saying. We see it consciously. Why did I even say that? Why am I blurting things like that out? Why am I even just throwing words at people? Where they're coming from, because a lot of people do that. They just stand there, or they just don't know how to move within, so they just spend maybe a lot of time online just debating things and just throwing things at people. Even all these online discussions. I mean, one thing is to lead a conscious, aware discussion. It's like masters would sit around the table, white brotherhood, imagine that, those beings, and they're just simply illuminating, and each has their own standpoint, because they're still unique, different beings, but they have a way of approaching it through unity, so it serves the whole. And that's how those of us who are moving on the path of this beautiful mastery, that's how we're inspired by such enriching conversations and energy exchanges, not that empty, just throwing words at people and just basically throwing it back to you. And when you get that reflection, you don't want to see it, you want to make another turn, and you're just basically making excuses for it. And there's a lot of word playing, and it's like masters don't do that. We don't do that. We stay present with ourselves, and with everything we say that is unconscious, we question it. Where is this coming from? What part of me feels fragmented, so it's making such an assumption? Because the truth is, we realize we're always alive. And what makes us alive and what cultivates our life force. So without further ado, and how you can cultivate it in many physical ways and utilizations, get back to the root of how you actually start not losing your life force. That would for me be the first thing. It's like, how do you make sure you're not losing it on things that are wasteful of your time, your precious energy, whatever? Because a lot of times for me, when I get really in my power, I'll be tested by people, because they're just gonna come. It's like, rah, rah, rah. And I will have to stay so strong, because people will have their own experiences, and a lot of times they will even project their own onto you. And as you offering yourselves, because that's what you do as a master of the self, you become an offering, you become a sacred gift to the world for those who are still opening up for that. And those who are ready will be called, and they'll meet you, and they're going to have an exchange with you, or something will happen. There will be an interaction, because the whole world is interactive and it's interdependent. But you also have to become independent of the self. So when people say, if things like that was a sentence yesterday, was a word throwback, something like, oh, so if we're on this planet, again, assuming what's happening, we already have dead. But imagine you as a master, as a sovereign being, your life force is independent of where you're currently embodied, because it flows through the eternal source. A planetary representation is just where you are at this time, and you're offering your own life force, and you're contributing to the life force of the planetary existence, but you're not depending on it. Like, this is your source, and if things for you feel crappy and hard and challenging on the planet, then that's how you're supposed to be. A master rises above that. It's a phoenix. And when you read all those masterful books and examples, and there was many mystics teaching about this, and then you just throw that book in the corner, these people weren't sharing teachings, like knowledge. They were just sharing wisdom. And what we do is we throw it in the corner, and then we go do something else. It's like, okay, that's just their experience, but it can be anyone's experience. That's the thing. It can become an upliftment, a radical shift in our own consciousness when we're influenced by such things. And I love it because the sun is in Sagittarius now, which is the teacher and philosopher, and my ascendant is in 13 degrees, which is a avatar degree, supposedly, by starseed communities. It is. It's that divine deity number, and that's in Sagittarius for me. And that's why I have so many planets in the 9th house, which is the Sagittarian house, and a lot of planets as well. So I'm very Sagittarian being. I'm very devoted to this, the archer, the pursuit and the establishment of higher ideals and that truth, which has to come through us. And for me, a lot of it comes through nature, by observing the patternings in nature. As I've been living here in this portal here in the Alps, and you can see, if you can, how beautiful it is actually, I've been learning the patterns of nature. And through a few years, I've already been noticing, and it's almost like I can predict the patterns of energy according to weather, because it's the same thing, unless the weather is altered by human resources and means, which we all know is happening simultaneously as well. And we can also notice and feel into that, how the energy will feel. So you see, when we establish our living life force within, and know how to, first of all, learn how to stop abusing it and misusing it, and of course depleting ourselves of it, so we're losing the life force. But it's not from others. It's from your own mental thought processes and emotional addictions that get you like this. Assumptions when you make, the things are, you're just a victim here and you're passive. So when someone gives you the benefit of the doubt and gives you a wise approach, and you're still throwing pebbles at them, think about the nature of who you're really throwing that at, because it always comes back to you. Eventually will. And those darts will come through, either through your dreams or emotional processing or physical experiences or relationships, and you will have to get clarity on that. So for me personally, I get a lot of that. Like I've said, this truth comes from the living creatrix, observing all life, seeing the nature here. And I know that this is only for me true in this white portal, in this residence, that it feels my own kingdom, my own queendom. I don't know how to call it, but this is how it feels for me. And it feels this structure that I've anchored here. And for me, this is the living embodied human, which has someone, a being that has found the essence of their source, has connected it through the intelligence of the environment, because we choose where we want to live, because that environment reflects us. And just recently I had a conversation with this great being, and he said to me, what you have, this environment here, it keeps you pure, and you just don't have so much energy surrounding it through that depletion and so many people here, so you're always purified. And I said, yeah, but this reflects my inner state. And he said it should reflect everyone's inner state, because that's how we are in truth. But there's so many layers around us, and we think we need certain things, and up until the point we think we still need them, in a way we do, otherwise we wouldn't even think that. So it's all an experience. And don't forget, every soul that's here came to get their own experience. You can't save others, you can't get involved in their evolutionary cycles, you can't even get involved in the evolutionary cycle of the planet unless you are as connected to source that you know your own position in the entire evolution. This means your own pillar point, your own source of creativity, and that divine genius, which is your source, your I amness, which will always keep you in alignment with what's good for the greater good. So that's when you know. So master yourself first before you want to get to what others are doing. Because recently someone said to me, oh, all these beings now think they're young ones and they already think they're Christ and whatever. And I said, you know what? Why would you even deal with them? If they think that, well, let them. You know, why would we even obsess? If someone wants to be something, well, that's their experience. And yes, a lot of people are even going a little bit like this at this time, and there's too much. And sometimes when the knowledge kicks in too fast before wisdom is developed through love, things like that happen. But if someone is experiencing it, it's their experience, and obviously their soul somehow is following that path for a reason that only they know and we don't. So why would we even obsess with what other people are doing and where they are? And if someone does not come to you and say, please help me to realize the truth from within myself, or help me see something about myself I cannot currently see, and if they ask for it specifically, only then are you being called somehow to that assistance. Otherwise, you're just thinking that you are, and you're trying to project something that you feel is your own wound or is your own perception, and it's your own experience. Because if someone tells me, look, Polona, this is how I'm experiencing the world, and this is it, and I would say, well, but from my perspective, the world is beautiful, and although there's challenges, I don't see it that way. Because my perspective of the world is so entirely uniquely flowing through my source that you can never generalize it. You see, there's as many perspectives as there's people now involved and incarnated on this planet. So what's the truth really? For me, it's that self-realization of your I amness, and not a lot of people are getting that, but they're getting there in their own time. And perhaps it's not going to be on this planet, perhaps it's not going to be on this time, but what do we have to do with it other than doing our best for us? Because what is natural to us is our path. If you feel you're choosing mastery and you're saying it's so hard, why? Because it's not supposed to be hard. It's your soul is naturally ready. Something for you is not a sacrifice. It's not things like that are not difficult for you. For me, it was not difficult to give up the city light, or the benefits that the city has and all the things there. And for me, it was like, no, nothing to give up, only to give into, which was my natural lifestyle that I created here, because it reflects me and my own inner soul the best. And up until the point where people get that and they become natural beings as well, and they start getting the truth from within and from nature and combining that in a unison of source and Gaia, then it has to come naturally, because otherwise it's just feeling like someone gives you that inception, like I always talk about, gives you their vision, but it might not be yours, because you still want certain things. I always tell you that so many people say, wow, you live here in this beautiful, blessed whatever, and I could tell you millions of reasons why you wouldn't live here, why never to move to the Alps. But I also know a million reasons and infinite reasons why I'm here and why I get to choose it every day, because every day has to be a new choice to live here. It's not like I decided for a lifetime, but I know what I feel. I know the devotion calls me, and each day I wake up new day of devotion, new day of waking up, of knowing what I'm choosing. Has to be like this. Because if you say, oh, I'm already master, I never get to choose, you wake up each day, you just scramble things, you just forget about that. The devotion is an ongoing thing. The essences of the soul are not something you just like, oh, it's a little tiny experience that I had in an instance, then I forget about it. Once you establish it and it's real, the seed has sprouted, you have embodied it, it's there, it never goes away. That's why people who are profound, enlightened beings, even when they incarnate to the planet again to assist others, they remain their wisdom. We don't forget. We might need a few years to wake up, to go through certain feelings and family lineages and whatever experiences we have chosen, but we come back to that knowing eventually when it's our time. when it is sovereign and given for us through our own soul. And that's why this whole thing is so beautiful. It has to be like this. I don't know if there's anything else I wanted to share about this. It just feels like a random, spontaneous, it's not like I have a topic and then I know I'm going to talk about. It's more just like, when you sit with a master, don't imagine sitting with someone you know is an ascended master, or, or me, or something you perceive. Like a lot of people even perceive the knowledge comes through me. No. Imagine sitting with that aspect of you in silence, which is your own master, your Buddha, your Krishna, your Christ. I don't know how to call it, but it's enlightenment that comes through sitting in the presence with your master. Every one of us has that seed. It's been planted in all of us. It's that potential. It's not something to reach. It's just something to walk into when there is readiness. There's readiness of the soul. So that's something I wanted to talk about. Let me think. There was something else. Somehow slipped my mind. Perhaps it's not important. But what really comes up for me every time is I see this, it's like this bridge. It's not always easy for people to cross. It's like they make a decision, but they don't know what steps to make to embody that decision, And mastery, like I said, it comes with each new moment. Each new moment you get to, you get to experience that. It means you have the right to change your mind in each moment, because not the mind, it's just you having shifts every day. And that's why that personal truth, which is your path, your direction towards that dharmic living, will be shifting. And perhaps that is why I'm not so guided to talk about the things anymore that perhaps a greater majority of people is talking about, because I'm being nudged through my own embodiment and reflection into more of that mastery. So if sometimes you ask these questions and you're not getting the answer that you think you want or need to hear, I don't think the path of mastery, once you become it, it's about babying others, giving them the cookies, giving them all the answers. When you read those stories, beings who have realized themselves, they never give others answers. They kind of give them challenges. They give them something to think about or ponder deeper. They just give them those sparkles of wisdom that ignite their own depth. Because in truth, we're all deep. Perhaps we're not yet experiencing it or embodying it, because we're still kind of choosing to swim on the surface levels. Feels safer for now. But watch your master when it starts to kick in. It's a beautiful experience. And for me, every day I realize that the path that I've chosen cannot be compared with any other path. So, that's the thing I want to talk about, is really taking into consideration as well, because when you're in truth, in your own embodied kind of sense, you're making choices through conscious cognizance. You're not making those compulsive changes. For example, I feel bored a little bit at this time. I don't know what to do with myself. So someone tells, we're going to go somewhere, want to do this. I'm going just because I need to go. I so badly want to go somewhere, just, for the benefit of the doubt. And I see a lot of people, I've met even people who had great understanding, but it's the human factor through the need for experience. When experience is natural without you pursuing it, like, I need this, I need that. It's just natural gifts we receive because we already know. Our master self already knows what we need. We simply, like Germaine says, it comes to you. That's true. It comes to us. We don't need to even force it or try to make it happen so badly. On a certain level, we feel like we do, and there's a lot of humans that need to learn their own will. That's where they're doing that. But on a certain path, once you learn it, you start allowing it to come to you. So you see, it's all different pathways. And don't say anything is better than the other. You don't even have to choose yet your self-mastery. It doesn't matter. Just choose something. Choose what you're choosing in this moment, and don't doubt it, whatever it is. That's your truth in this moment. And don't think I should be there because this person said it, or Saint Germain, or Joshua, or Polona in these videos, or whoever. Choose it because you feel that's right in the moment, and don't fear the consequences, but be aware that the reason why you're doing it, whether it's conscious or is compulsive, because compulsive choices lead to confusing playing outs and dramas and scenarios. I had this experience recently with someone, because when I went, we went somewhere together, and I said, I know why I'm going, I know why. And basically the person was just like, okay. but they didn't know why they're going. And it ended up being this weird dramatic experience on their behalf, and I simply had to choose my own path to walk through since then. And the paths had to go like this, but I saw the difference when you're making a conscious choice, and when you're doing it just to fill the gap, because you're searching yourself, just want to do something, and there's an opportunity there, and there's another person there waiting for you. You're like, oh, what the heck? Yo, life is an adventure. Yes, it is. But even though it's an adventure, you still have to live it through truth. The essence, the foundation, when you are coming from your sovereignty, will be that truth. Otherwise, you can create a lot of confusion for yourself. And even if you're choosing lots of activities that are random and compulsive, it will make you more confused. And I love the saying that we're actually all homeless. A lot of people seek their home or belonging, but we're all homeless. Osha said that, I think. And when we embrace that, it's like part of my home is, where I have my apartment, but I don't really feel at home there. Like, it's my ultimate home. It's just a residence. It's not a permanent residence even, and I feel more at home when I'm like this in nature. It feels so free, and that for me is the true home, that I can move around, be these beautiful places and spaces as freely as possible. For me, that is mastery for me. But that's my perspective on mastery. For me, the greatest abundance is that I can move around this planet where I want to and when I want to, as freely as I want to. And look again at this beautiful sun moving downwards. So that's it for today. I hope you liked the video. These topics, again, they're random, and they are about what springs forth. They're like these, like I said, these final droplets of these things we're still applying in this final culmination period. For a lot of you, we have to address them. We have to see the blind spots. Otherwise, it is what it is. You know that I love you so very much, and I'm sharing all these things to inspire you, not to make you think in a certain way. It's just to inspire you towards your own mastery. That is always my dedication, because I want the same for all life, to be free, to be liberated, and that's the purpose of the white ray. I'm going to talk about the white ray more, I think, soon. That's it for today. I hope it inspired you, and I hope you're enjoying your beautiful time. The focus on our mastery, like I said, it's more about how we are internalizing to make the external really conscious and really beautiful. So our shifts will be perhaps deeper. You might perceive it takes longer than when you're making the just the law of manifestation or whatever kind of work people are doing. But it will be profound. It will be greater workings at hand. I think there's one oracle card in Alana's Fairchild, the Mandala Oracle. There's this beautiful writing about those of you who are having sacred acts of mission that's grander. So sometimes it might be perceived that it takes longer, but there's greater workings at play, and there's many other people involved too, and many other things. So things are moving. When you're coming from the outside perspective, when things have to align, it's like wider. So until they kind of come together in a physical sense, you might perceive, wow, it's happening not in a linear sense or as fast as I'd want it, so where's my truth? it's been there, so it has been, but the details of it, they kind of like here this part adjust and this one, but in a sense they're all in parallel. They're adjusting and synthesizing. And this is where a lot of you are now. Okay, time to go. I'm getting a little chilly, back for my run, and I'll talk to you guys soon, later. Bye-bye. Take care. Hey guys, so I was just sitting here by this beautiful spot above the river, and I was meditating. And the thing is, right here, I saw a beautiful butterfly flying, and I was like, what is this? Because it's December. And I looked at it. I thought it was okay. Maybe it's a little bird. No, it wasn't a bird. Birds don't flutter like that. I thought it was a leaf. No. And then it went on to the other side there, and it was actually a butterfly. So the thing here, the message was that okay, first message is, if you sit and meditate for a while, you might see miracles happening. You might notice things, so you observe. If I was not meditating here, I could not observe this butterfly. So it was a gift for me, through my soul. And also one of the messages was that even when things feel lifeless, and we still have no snow in December, which is an ongoing theme for quite a few winters now, but it's like even when it feels lifeless and everything goes to sleep, there's inklings of transformation. There's always present. And because this butterfly came here where I am right now, and this is very rare, it does, of course, signal my transformation and my metamorphosis. But it was also about the messages that I've just shared with you, and how we actually just become these beautiful beings when we simply stay aligned with what we know is our truth and how it comes through us. And then we don't know, perhaps we will see a butterfly in the middle of December, which I've never seen before. I've seen them perhaps in November, but not definitely in December. So I'm gonna be on the lookout for a while longer and see what happens. And I just really wanted to share this with you because I thought it was such a beautiful moment, and because it goes on the lines with what I was sharing today. The sun is again moving closer towards reaching its culmination, getting to its lowest point, which will be December 21st. And the reason why so many of us have experienced these profound awakenings is for us to know when we are living in this dimensional reality, when we're not aligned with that feeling that was a direct experience in our awakening, so that we can reestablish it and embody it. So that becomes our aim. The aim of our self-mastery is, once we have that awakening, once we have that vertical illumination, is to bring it to the horizontal, because it's such a profound experience that we always want it, because once we know it, it's there. It permeates our whole being, and it's just a matter of time, and it means one conscious alignment after the other before we can really feel that bliss on all levels. And that doesn't mean we still won't have human experiences. It's just that how we approach them, how we move through them, will be with so much more grace and ease. And this is the aim of this new dimensional experience, the new human, the Homo Luminous. So all these partial and temporary experiences we have during our awakening moments, they're becoming our aim for us to bring that down, to merge the spirit and matter, the soul and body, the heart, the mind, the human, the alien, the ET, all of that, so that we can really live those rich, profound lives on the planet, and yet interdependent of it. And as the sun always illuminates and radiates, sometimes its journey appears to be a little shorter, sometimes longer, depending on where we are on the planet at the current point in time. But it's always the same. And yet it's not, because even the sun, through its light and what it brings to our planetary evolution, it's evolving. So everything is as it is, and yet there's an element of it that's always evolving, and that's the beauty of us. And knowing that it's not just about our vertical alignment and mastery, but the horizontal experience of it, making it an infinite journey. That's the beauty of it.